All right, fourth grade, we are going to read chapter 5 of our Jackie Robinson story. So this is lesson 65. Make sure that you are two-finger tracking. And again, if you haven't watched the biography videos that I posted the other day, go into the class stories and watch those. That will help you out with understanding the story more. This is the lesson, this is the story that you should have done the language story map on. Okay, so my video example was of lesson 64, and then this lesson, this story is what you do your story map on, okay? So let's get started. Branch Rickey made it very plain to Robinson that Robinson would have a tough time playing for the Montreal Royals. He said Robinson would be all alone, and the other players would resent him. The last thing he said was that Robinson should marry Ray. Then he added, "You're going to need her with you from now on." Okay, finger freeze. What organization did Branch Rickey manage? So I'm looking for the team. Which team in the Dodger organization was Jackie going to play with first? All right, now I want you to look at the map, all right? The city of Montreal, I want you to point to Montreal. That is in the country of Canada, okay? It's not in the United States. It's really close though. It's on the border, it looks like, okay? The Dodgers played in Brooklyn, so point to Brooklyn. And Brooklyn is part of New York City. So touch Brooklyn on the map. So in which country is Brooklyn? In which country is Montreal? All right, let's continue. When word got out that Robinson had signed a contract with Montreal, all the papers carried the story. In March 1946, Robinson joined the Royals for spring training in Florida. Then Ray and Jackie got married. For a while, Ray was just about the only friend Jackie had. The first time Robinson walked into the locker room with the other Montreal players, he tried to be friendly, but they didn't talk to him. The coaches and trainers talked to him, but not the other players. Each day, Robinson got dressed in his new uniform and went onto the field. He saw the wives of the players sitting in the stands and watching the practice. Then he saw Ray sitting all by herself. Robinson was hurt and angry. There she was, the person he loved more than anybody in the world, and the other wives wouldn't even talk to her. All right, I have a few questions, so finger freeze. To which state did the Montreal Royals go for spring training? What state? Whom did Ray sit with in the stands? Why do you think the other players' wives didn't sit with her? How did Ray's treatment make Robinson feel? Let's continue reading. Ray would smile at Jackie and wave. He would smile and wave back. Robinson knew he wasn't the only one who had to be brave. One day, Jackie told Ray he hated to see her treated that way. But she smiled, shook her head, and said, "Don't worry, things will soon be better for us. And thanks to you, they'll soon be better for all Black athletes." Okay, pause at the diamond. How could Robinson make things better for Black athletes? What did Ray mean by that statement? In what ways did Ray have to be brave? All right, let's continue reading. That is what Robinson had to keep reminding himself, that he would make things better for other Black athletes. Every time he wanted to fight, and every time he didn't think he could take it anymore, he tried to remember he was doing something important. He told himself that even though he had to suffer, he was doing something that could help other Black players. So he worked and worked, and he worked even harder. One day, the Royals played a practice game with the Dodgers. At first, the fans yelled at Robinson. He was scared, but he was also determined. Robinson was in the field playing second base. A Dodger batter smashed a fast ground ball that looked like a hit. Robinson raced for the ball, scooped it up, and in one quick motion, fired it to the first baseman. The batter was out, and people in the stands started to say things like, "Did you see that man move?" and "What speed?" Robinson made a lot of dazzling plays in that game, and the fans were impressed. The first game Montreal played after spring training in Florida was held across the river from New York City. The place was crowded with people who had come to see Jackie. The first time Robinson was up to bat, these people didn't have much to cheer about. He tapped a little ground ball that dribbled toward the shortstop. Out! But the next time Robinson was up, he brought all the fans to their feet. 2 Montreal players were on base. The pitcher threw Robinson a sizzling fastball. Crack! By the sound of the bat, the fans knew the ball was gone. There it went, a shot over the left field fence. It was a home run, with 3 players scoring. When Robinson crossed home plate, both players who had just scored shook his hand and slapped him on the back. Okay, let's pause there. I have just a few questions. Where did the Royals play their game, their first game after spring training? Good, that's the only question I can ask right now because we have to read the rest of the story to answer the rest of the questions. The next time Robinson was up, he got on first base with a hit. Before the pitcher settled down, Robinson stole second base, and the crowd went wild. Suddenly, Robinson stole third base. The pitcher got so rattled with Robinson dancing around on third base that he threw the ball to third after he wound up for the pitch. That's a balk. Remember that from the video? Which meant that Robinson could walk to home plate and score. The crowd cheered and shouted. That game showed the kind of baseball that Robinson could play. He was daring and always ready to take a chance. He was so good at stealing bases that the other team couldn't throw the ball fast enough to get him out. When Robinson arrived in Montreal after the Royals had won 3 games on the road, the fans loved him, and he loved the city. There were still rough times ahead for Robinson. During one game, one of the players in the other team's dugout threw a black cat onto the field. The player called, "Hey, Robinson, there's your cousin." Robinson looked over at the cat and said nothing. But a few moments later, he was at bat, and he made his bat do all his talking for him. He smashed the ball and ran like a streak to second base. When one of the Montreal players hit a single, Robinson scored. As he went past the dugout of the other team, he said in a very pleasant tone, "Well, I guess my cousin is pretty happy now." By the end of the season, Robinson had answered every player on the other teams who insulted him. He answered in a language they all understood. The Montreal Royals won their minor league pennant, and Jackie Robinson was the top batter in the league. All right, I want you to name some great things Robinson did in that game that we read about, okay? He did kind of 3 main things. During one game, what did one of the other players put on the field to insult Robinson? What did the player say about that cat? How did Robinson respond to that insult? What honors did Robinson and the Royals receive at the end of the season? Okay, and I want you to remember that the last comprehension question comes from that last paragraph. It asked what, by the end of the season, Robinson had answered every player on the other teams who insulted him. What does it mean? He answered in a language they all understood. Okay, that's what that question is asking. So what does that mean, that he answered in a language that all the other players on the other teams understood. Okay? That is all of the questions for lesson 65, okay? And let me know if you need anything, but hope you have a good day, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye.